The 255-page transcript and 8-plus-hour-long video shows Smith answering questions about his decision to bring charges against the president.
Frankly, Republicans who put their allegiance to the country before the party. And so the president got information from people he trusted on other issues. He rejected it whenever it didn't fit.
Donald Trump is absolutely panicking right now because just when you thought this day couldn't possibly get any crazier for Trump, the absolute worst thing that could happen just dropped. And I mean the worst. We're talking about Jack Smith, the special counsel, the guy who's been investigating Trump's January 6th actions for years. He just unsealed his full report. The complete investigation, every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every phone record, everything, and it is absolutely damning. This report proves beyond any shadow of doubt that Donald Trump personally directed a criminal conspiracy to overthrow the 2020 election. Not allegedly, not maybe. The evidence is ironclad. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating. The timing of this release. This dropped at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Just hours after the Supreme Court destroyed Trump's financial records defense. Just hours after Judge Engoron dissolved the Trump Organization. Just hours after Judge Sullivan ordered liquidation of all Trump's major properties. Everything is happening at once, and it's clearly coordinated. The entire justice system is moving against Trump simultaneously. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Patrick Smith's show to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what's actually happening. Here's what the Jack Smith report actually says. The report documents 57 distinct criminal acts that Trump allegedly committed in his attempt to subvert the 2020 election. 57. These aren't gray area decisions or political disputes. These are actual crimes with specific statutes attached. Conspiracy against rights, obstruction of an official proceeding, wire fraud, and here's the big one, nobody saw coming. Potential murder charges under Title 18, U.S. Code Section 1117, murder. Jack Smith is saying Trump could be criminally liable for the deaths that occurred during the January 6th Capitol attack. Ashley Babbitt, Officer Brian Sicknick, Officer Howard Liebengood, who died by suicide days later. The report argues that Trump's actions directly led to these deaths, that he knew violence was likely, that he encouraged it anyway, that he watched it happen on television and did nothing to stop it for hours. Now let me walk you through how Jack Smith built this case because the evidence is absolutely overwhelming. The report is based on years of investigation, hundreds of witness interviews, thousands of documents, phone records, text messages, emails, video footage, everything. And what Smith found is a clear pattern of criminal behavior that started immediately after the election and continued all the way through January 6th and beyond. Trump knew he lost the election. The report proves this conclusively. Trump's own campaign advisors told him he lost. His attorney general told him there was no fraud. His campaign lawyers told him the legal challenges had no merit. Trump knew, but he didn't care, because Trump decided that staying in power was more important than democracy or the Constitution or anything else. And so he launched a multi-pronged criminal conspiracy to overturn the results. And Jack Smith has documented every single piece of it. Share this video with everyone you know because the first prong of the conspiracy was the fake elector scheme, and the Smith report has absolutely devastating evidence about this. In 7 states that Biden won Trump's team, organized fake slates of electors. These were people who falsely claimed to be the official electors for their states even though Biden had won. And these fake electors signed certificates saying they were casting their electoral votes for Trump. Those certificates were then sent to Congress and the National Archives. The plan was that on January 6th, Vice President Mike Pence would use the fake elector certificates as justification to throw out the real results. It was a scheme to literally manufacture fake election results. And the Smith report proves that Trump knew these electors were fake. Phone records show Trump personally calling Republican Party officials in these states telling them to organize the fake elector slates. Trump's own handwritten notes reference the fake electors' plan. He knew they were fake. He knew the whole thing was a fraud. And he did it anyway. That's conspiracy. That's fraud. Multiple federal crimes right there, according to Smith's analysis. The second prong was the pressure campaign against Mike Pence. Trump spent weeks pressuring Pence to refuse to certify the electoral votes on January 6th. Trump told Pence he had the power to just reject electoral votes from states Trump disputed, which is insane. The vice president doesn't have that power. The Constitution is very clear about this, but Trump didn't care about the Constitution. He just wanted Pence to do what he said. And when Pence refused, Trump turned violent. The Smith report includes testimony from White House aides who were in the room during Trump's final conversation with Pence on the morning of January 6th. And according to these witnesses, Trump screamed at Pence, called him weak, called him a coward, told him that if Pence didn't reject the electoral votes, Trump would make sure everyone knew Pence was responsible for Biden becoming president. Think about what that means. This was a threat according to the witnesses. This was intimidation. And then Trump went out and gave that speech at the Ellipse, where he told his supporters that Pence had let them down. Trump was painting a target on Pence's back. And hours later, a mob of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." They built a gallows outside. They were hunting for Pence inside the building. And Trump watched it happen on TV and did nothing for hours. Multiple aides testified that they begged Trump to call off the mob, and Trump refused. One aide testified that Trump said something like maybe Pence deserves it. That's consciousness of guilt, according to Smith's report. That's evidence of criminal intent. Make sure you're subscribed to Patrick Smith Show, because the third prong was exploiting the Capitol violence to delay the certification. The Smith report makes clear that Trump's goal wasn't just to protest. The goal was to actually stop Congress from certifying the election results, and the violence accomplished that goal. For several hours, Congress couldn't meet. The certification was delayed. And during those hours, Trump's team was still trying to pressure Republican senators to object to electoral votes. The Smith report includes phone logs that are absolutely damning. On January 6th, while the Capitol was under attack, Trump's aides made calls to 9 different Republican senators. 9. The report lists them by name, and the content of those calls was clear. The aides were pressuring senators to object to certain state results, to drag out the certification process, to create chaos and confusion, and the timing is not a coincidence. These calls happened during the violence. Trump's team was trying to use the chaos at the Capitol as leverage to get senators to go along with the scheme. That's conspiracy, according to Smith. That's coordination. And Jack Smith has the phone records to prove it. Call times, call durations, specific senators contacted, everything. Now let's talk about Jack Smith himself, because his credibility matters here. Smith is not some partisan hack. He's a career prosecutor with decades of experience. He's prosecuted war crimes, public corruption, organized crime. He's done this at the highest levels. And when the Attorney General appointed Smith as special counsel to investigate Trump's January 6th actions, everyone knew this was serious. Smith doesn't mess around. He builds airtight cases. And he's been working on this Trump investigation for more than 2 years. Every detail has been checked and double-checked. Every piece of evidence has been authenticated. Every witness has been thoroughly vetted. And the report he just released represents the culmination of all that work. Smith's conclusion is unequivocal. Trump committed multiple federal crimes according to the evidence. The evidence proves it beyond reasonable doubt in Smith's assessment, and Trump should be prosecuted. Smith says this directly in the report. He writes that there is no historical analog for what Trump did. No president in American history has ever tried to overturn an election through criminal means. This is unprecedented, and it demands accountability. But here's the thing. Jack Smith gave a deposition to Congress back on December 17, 2025. In that deposition, Smith laid out his findings under oath. He told members of Congress that Trump alone pressured Pence to overthrow the government. Those were his exact words according to the transcript. Trump alone. Not advisors acting independently, not rogue staffers. Trump personally. And Smith testified that the evidence against Trump is overwhelming, that any reasonable prosecutor would bring charges based on this evidence. And now, just a few weeks after that deposition, Smith has unsealed the full report. Everything is public now. every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every conclusion, and the report backs up everything Smith testified to Congress about. This is ironclad. There is no reasonable defense against this evidence, according to Smith's analysis. Share this with everyone let's dig into the specific charges. The report lays out 7 potential criminal charges. First is conspiracy against rights under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 241. This makes it a crime to conspire to injure or threaten any person in their constitutional rights. And the right at issue here is the right to vote. Every American has a constitutional right to have their vote counted fairly. And Smith argues that Trump conspired to violate that right by trying to throw out legitimate votes in states Biden won. The fake elector scheme was designed to disenfranchise voters. The pressure on Pence was designed to ignore actual vote totals. And Smith has evidence showing Trump knew this. Phone calls where Trump talks about needing to find enough votes. Meetings where Trump discusses which states to target. Handwritten notes where Trump sketches out the fake elector plan. All of it proves consciousness of guilt, according to the report. Second is obstruction of an official proceeding under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1512. This law makes it a crime to corruptly obstruct any official proceeding, and the certification of electoral votes by Congress is definitely an official proceeding. It's mandated by the Constitution. Trump tried to stop it, according to Smith. The violence at the Capitol was designed to disrupt the certification. The fake electors were designed to create confusion during certification. The pressure on Pence was designed to derail the certification. All of it was obstruction, according to the report. And Smith has evidence showing Trump intended to obstruct. Text messages from Trump aides discussing how to delay the certification. Phone calls where Trump talks about stopping the vote count. This is direct evidence of corrupt intent, according to Smith's analysis. Third is conspiracy to defraud the United States under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 371. Trump repeatedly pressured DOJ officials to announce investigations into election fraud, even though there was no evidence of fraud. He wanted DOJ to create the appearance of impropriety to justify his challenges to the results. And when DOJ officials refused, Trump threatened to fire them and replace them with people who would do what he wanted. The Smith report has email evidence showing Trump's chief of staff trying to pressure DOJ leadership, testimony from DOJ officials describing Trump's demands. All of it proves a conspiracy to misuse DOJ for Trump's personal political benefit, according to Smith. Fourth is wire fraud under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1343. After losing the election, Trump sent out millions of fundraising emails claiming the election was stolen and that he needed money to fight back legally. Those emails went to millions of people across state lines. And the fraud component is that Trump knew the election wasn't stolen, according to Smith. His own advisors told him there was no fraud, but he told donors the opposite to get them to send money. And those donors sent hundreds of millions of dollars. Money that didn't go to election challenges, according to the evidence. It went into Trump's personal accounts and political PACs. That's fraud, according to Smith's analysis. And Smith has the evidence, the fundraising emails, the bank records showing where the money went. All of it proves fraud, according to the report. Fifth is potential murder charges under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1117. Under federal law, if you're part of a conspiracy and someone dies during commission of that conspiracy, you can be charged with murder even if you didn't personally kill anyone. It's called felony murder rule. Smith is arguing that the deaths during January 6th could be attributable to Trump's conspiracy. Ashley Babbitt was shot while trying to break into the speaker's lobby. She was there because Trump told supporters to march to the Capitol and fight. Officer Brian Sicknick suffered strokes and died the day after being assaulted by rioters. Officer Howard Liebengood died by suicide 3 days later, traumatized by the violence. Smith argues that all of these deaths are foreseeable consequences of Trump's conspiracy. Trump knew there would be violence. Multiple aides warned him. Secret Service warned him. But Trump gave the speech anyway, and people died. Under conspiracy law, Trump could be liable for those deaths, according to Smith's legal theory. Sixth is seditious conspiracy under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 2384. This is the most serious charge. Seditious conspiracy means conspiring to overthrow the government of the United States by force. And that's exactly what Trump did, according to Smith's report. He tried to prevent the lawful transfer of power. He tried to stay in office despite losing the election. He used violence and intimidation to accomplish those goals. That's sedition, according to the report. That's an attempt to overthrow the government, and it carries up to 20 years in prison if convicted. Smith has been very careful about this charge. He knows it's explosive, but the evidence supports it according to his analysis. Trump's own words on January 6th about marching to the Capitol, his refusal to call off the mob once violence started, his continued pressure on Pence even while the Capitol was under attack. All of it shows Trump was trying to use force to stay in power, according to the report. Seventh is witness tampering under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 1512. After January 6th, Trump continued to interfere with the investigation, according to Smith. He called witnesses who were cooperating with prosecutors. He posted on social media about people who testified against him. He dangled pardons to January 6th defendants to keep them from cooperating. All of that is witness tampering, according to the report. And Smith has evidence of it. Phone records showing Trump calling witnesses. Social media posts that clearly reference specific witnesses. This is obstruction of justice happening in real time, according to Smith's documentation. Now here's where it gets really interesting. What could happen next? First, and most importantly, Jack Smith has reportedly filed sealed arrest warrants for Trump. The report confirms this. Smith went to a federal magistrate judge and presented evidence supporting the 7 charges, and the judge agreed there was probable cause. So arrest warrants have been issued according to reports. They're sealed right now, but they exist, and they'll be unsealed as soon as Trump surrenders to authorities. Multiple reports say federal marshals are preparing to take Trump into custody, potentially within the next 24 to 48 hours, if the warrants are unsealed. Trump has been removed from office under the 25th Amendment, but he's not in custody yet. Once those warrants are unsealed and served, Trump could be arrested, fingerprinted, mugshot, the whole thing. And then he'll face an initial appearance before a federal judge who will decide whether he gets bail. And given the severity of the charges and Trump's history of witness intimidation, there's a real chance the judge could deny bail. Trump could be held in custody until trial if that happens. That means jail, federal detention, Trump behind bars potentially. Second, the political fallout is nuclear. The Senate has been debating impeachment and conviction. After the Jack Smith report, it's up to 41 Republican senators willing to vote yes. With all 51 Democrats, that's 92 votes for conviction. You only need 67. Trump could get convicted in the Senate. The vote is scheduled for January 8th. And based on current count, Trump could be convicted by an overwhelming margin if the vote proceeds. And once he's convicted, he's permanently barred from holding federal office. He can't run in 2028. He can't run ever again if convicted. And his political career would be completely over. And Republicans are relieved. They've been trying to figure out how to get rid of Trump for years. His approval rating has collapsed. And now they have the perfect excuse. They can point to the Jack Smith report and say the evidence is overwhelming. We had no choice. Third, there's the criminal prosecution that could come. The arrest warrants are just the beginning if they're executed. Once Trump is taken into custody, he could be formally indicted by a federal grand jury, and that indictment could be massive. 7 major charges plus potentially hundreds of individual counts. Each fake elector certificate could be a separate count of fraud. Each phone call pressuring officials could be a separate count of conspiracy. Each fundraising email could be a separate count of wire fraud. We could be looking at 300 plus criminal counts potentially. And this isn't just federal charges. Multiple states are also preparing charges. Georgia has been investigating Trump's phone call to the Secretary of State demanding they find enough votes. That's election fraud under Georgia state law. And now with the Smith report providing evidence, Georgia prosecutors have everything they need to potentially indict. Same with Arizona, same with Michigan. Trump could face criminal charges in multiple jurisdictions, federal and state. Fourth, this connects to all the other Trump scandals that have blown up recently. The Smith report makes this clear. Trump's conspiracy to overthrow the election was funded with money from the same sources that funded everything else, according to the evidence. The Deutsche Bank loans, the questionable connections. It's all the same money flowing through the same networks according to the financial records. Trump used Deutsche Bank loans to fund his political operation according to the evidence, and those loans were secured with fraudulent property valuations. And the money behind those loans came from questionable sources, and Trump used that money to pay for the fake elector scheme, to pay for lawyers filing frivolous lawsuits, to pay for the rally on January 6th. All of it was funded with money from these sources, according to the financial trail. And now all of those financial records are public, so prosecutors can trace the money. And that could open up RICO charges. This wasn't just one crime, according to Smith's theory. This was an entire criminal enterprise operating at the highest levels of government for years. Fifth, J.D. Vance's role is important. Vance has been serving as acting president since Trump was removed under the 25th Amendment, and Vance has taken a very clear position. He's cooperating with all investigations. He's not interfering with DOJ. He's not trying to protect Trump. In fact, Vance issued a statement after the Smith report was released, saying the evidence is deeply troubling and that he supports holding everyone accountable regardless of position or party. That's a sitting Republican president saying a former Republican president should be prosecuted. That's unprecedented, but it shows how completely Trump has been abandoned by his own party. Nobody is defending him anymore. The bottom line is this: Jack Smith has released the most comprehensive evidence of presidential criminality in American history. 57 documented criminal acts, 7 major federal charges including potential murder and seditious conspiracy, sealed arrest warrants reportedly ready to be executed, Senate conviction virtually guaranteed if the vote proceeds, state charges potentially coming in multiple jurisdictions, and Trump's own party has abandoned him completely. This could be the end. Trump could be arrested within 48 hours if the warrants are unsealed. He could be convicted in the Senate. He could face hundreds of criminal counts in multiple jurisdictions. And he could spend the rest of his life in prison if convicted. The Jack Smith report could seal Trump's fate. The evidence is overwhelming, the charges are serious, and accountability may finally be coming. This is what justice could look like. This is what could happen when you try to overthrow democracy. And Trump could face every bit of what's potentially coming. This story continues. Stay tuned.